Here we go. Ayanna Jackson. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Right.
Thank you so much for coming in. This is a story that's kind of been in the hip hop community for a long time. You know, with the Tupac movie, your story was actually depicted in the movie. Did you actually see the movie?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get to that at the end. And I know that you have done a couple print interviews, and I think Vibe and The Source, but this is the first time you're actually talking on camera.
Correct.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start at the beginning of the story. When you first met Tupac at the club, how old were you?
I was 18, 19.
Okay. So talk about that night at Nell's nightclub.
I went to Nell's, and I was at a party. It was kind of, I guess, my first time there at the club, and I met him.
And when you met him, what exactly happened?
I was in the club. I was having some champagne, and he walked up behind me. I had some jeans on that night, and he placed his hands into the back pockets of my jeans, and I turned around, and he said, "I'm Tupac." I said, "I'm Ayana," and we progressed out of the VIP into the nightclub to dance.
Okay. Now, before that night, were you a fan of Tupac's music?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. Were you like just a casual fan, like you knew a song or two, or were you really into him as an artist?
I was a casual fan. I was more. I grew up. I'm 44, so I grew up on like R&B and stuff like that. So I would say I was a casual fan. I never followed a rapper or anything at that time.
Okay. So you guys meet at the club, you start to talk, you go into the little VIP area and you start dancing, and then what happens after that? I mean, what happens in the little VIP area?
Well, actually, when we were dancing, we weren't in VIP. We were kind of in the, I guess you would say the dance floor of the club at the time. So we were dancing, and they were playing his song, and he was smoking, and we were like dancing. We were dancing and we were kissing.
Okay. Now, I understand the kissing started to kind of get a little more serious.
Hmm.
So, what exactly happened on the dance floor of that club from your point of view?
On the dance floor that night, we were kissing. At one point, a friend of his gave him, I guess you would say, like a blunt at the time, or joint or whatever, and gave him that. And as we were dancing and kissing, he we were kissing, and he lowered my head. I did not give fellatio that night on the dance floor, which everybody wants to know. Didn't happen.
Okay, but you did say in one of your interviews that he kind of moved your head down, and
Yes, he
before you
did.
know it,
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
so you did kind of
Yeah.
unknowingly give it to him, I guess.
Yeah, well, not unknowingly, maybe kissed it and came back up. It wasn't like a full blown fellatio session on the dance floor, no.
Okay, but when you realized that was happening on the
Hmm.
dance floor in a public place, what went through your mind?
I'm going to pick my head back up.
Okay, were you upset about that, or were you cool with it?
No, it was all in good fun. I was not upset about it. No, not at all.
Okay, and originally Tupac was introduced to you by who at the club?
He was introduced to me by a friend of mine that I came to the club with.
Okay, now was this Nigel and Trevor, or somebody else?
No, it's someone else.
Okay, so how was Nigel and Trevor involved that night?
I never knew Nigel and Trevor.
Okay, you never knew them at all.
Not at all.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you guys are messing around on the dance floor. You guys kiss. The whole little going down thing happens and it stops. So what happens next? Well, what does Pac tell you after that?
After that, he says to me, if I'm just trying to remember, because this is like 24 years ago. I'm trying to remember. He says to me, um, "Do you want to leave? Let's hang out." And I'm like, "Okay." And then we wind up leaving Nels.
Okay, and then you guys go back to the hotel.
Yes.
Then what happens?
And then we talk and we kiss and we have sex.
Okay, you guys have sex
Hmm.
once, multiple times.
Uh, we had sex maybe 2 or 3 times that night. Yes.
After you guys finish having sex, do you stay in the hotel or do you leave?
Yeah, I stay. Actually, he was in New York City filming Above the Rim at the time. So after, he said, you want to stay. He actually told me, he says, I have a 5 o'clock call for the following morning for the movie. And I said, well, actually, I have to go. I have to be to work. So he says, well, spend a night and then I'll call down and they'll give us a call. They'll send you back and, yeah. So I spent the night that night.
Okay, and then you left the next morning?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
After you and Pac part ways, um, I understand that you called him and left some voicemails.
Well, actually, he when I left that morning, he called downstairs the Meridian to the, I guess, the clerk or whatever. He called downstairs, called me a car. He says leave your number. So I left my number. I left, went home, went to work or whatever, and I called. Yes, I did. I called him. I called him. I did.
Okay, and were you leaving kind of sexy messages for him when you called?
No, I know. I called. I did call. No, well, I called once and I said, yeah, I had a great time. And that was it. Yeah.
Okay, so then after that night,
Hmm.
how much time passes before you guys decide to meet up again?
Well, his road manager at the time, his name was Charles Fuller. He called me. He's like, "Oh, well, you want to come? Pop wants to see you. You want to come hang out?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I would go to the city. Charles Fuller, would send a car to where I was living at the time, and I would leave work, get the car, go to the city, and just kind of hang out.
Okay, so you hung out with Pac multiple times before
Yeah.
that last time?
Yes. Hmm.
Ah, okay, I didn't know that. So from the first night that you guys met at Nell's,
Hmm.
how many more times did you guys hang out?
Oh my God. So we met Mills Sunday. I want to say 2 or 3 times before the actual incident. Yeah.
Okay, and when you would go hang out with him, what would happen?
Oh, I would go, we would have dinner. It would be Charles Fuller would call, send a car. I would come there into the city and we would just hang out and have a good time.
Okay, and you guys were having sex pretty much every time you met up?
No, we weren't.
You weren't.
No.
Okay, some of the times you met up?
Some of the times, mm, maybe, no, no.
Okay. The night of the incident,
Hmm.
break down what exactly happens before you show up at the hotel.
Okay, so the night, just like any other night, I received a call from Charles Fuller. He called me, he's like, Pops wants to see you. I said, okay, fine. There will be a car, whatever time. Took the car, went back to the Meridian, got there. Once I walked in, uh, everybody was there, Charles, Jack, everyone was there in the living room. They were drinking. They were actually watching a TV that was they had they I guess they had a suite. There were 2 bedrooms and in the middle there was a living room. So they were in the living room just watching TV. I came in and they were like, "What do you want to drink?" I was like, "Oh, they were drinking like Absolute. We drank, they poured me a drink." Pa comes in and, he's like, "Hey." I'm like, "Hey." And we sit down on the couch in the living room, which was there. And I just remember sitting there. We were talking, and I was like, "Well, how was your day?" And we were talking about that. And I remember verbatim this. He had a scar across his face. Um, and of course, now that I know it was cosmetic from above the rim. And I was like, wow, it looks so real. And I remember touching it. He was like, yeah, yeah, they did a great job. I was like, yeah. And he's like, yo, I'm tired. Come on, let's go. And I remember getting up and walking into another bedroom that was adjacent because the living room was between two bedrooms. And I went into the bedroom with him.
Okay, so at the hotel at this point, it's you, Tupac, Charles Fuller, the road manager.
No, no, no.
Haitian.
When we, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry.
No. I'm just trying to, all the people that are there in the room. So it's you, Tupac,
Mm-hmm.
Charles Fuller, right? Haitian Jack,
Mm-hmm.
and then Trevor and Nigel.
Yes.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people total.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you guys go into Tupac's bedroom, and then what happens?
So we go into the bedroom and he's like, I'm tired, I'm stressed. I'm like, okay. So we go in there and he says he's like, yo, can you give me a massage? And I'm like, okay. So he lays down. At first, at one point, he's laying down face down on the bed and I'm massaging his back. And then he turns over and then I'm straddling him and I'm massaging, like he's facing me and I'm, just like massaging his shoulders and so forth.
Okay, what happens next?
So after that, I'm massaging him, he grabs the back of my head, he pulls me down, and we start kissing. All of a sudden, because we were adjacent to the living room where everyone was in. So it was very dark, it was very quiet. So all of a sudden when the door opens, of course there's light, there's noise coming from the living room, pouring into where we are. So as we're kissing, I go to turn around to look back around and he grabs my head. And when he grabs my head to turn it back around, I hear people coming into the bedroom. I didn't I didn't think anything of it because I've been with I didn't think anything of it. And I thought maybe someone had left something in the room. They were coming to get something out of the room. No idea. And as I'm turning around, he grabs the back of my hair. At the time, I had braids. I had braids in my hair at the time. So at the time, he grabs the back of my head and he wraps his hand around my braids and he turns me toward him and he pulls my head down and I hear people coming in. And at the time, I had a black dress on. I had a black, I guess, yeah, spandex back then. I had a black spandex dress on. And I'm hearing this noise and I'm hearing these people come in the room. And he's like, relax, baby. And I'm like, what? And he's like, relax. And as I go to turn around and look back, because he has his hand in my braids, I can't physically move around. So I'm looking at him while I'm straddling him and I'm looking at him face to face. And I'm like, and I hear people talking and I hear people saying, oh, look at her and her ass is fat and this and that. And I'm looking at him dead in his eye. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, I'm like, what's going on? And he's saying to me, he's like, relax, relax, baby. These are my boys. I like you so much, I decided to share you with them. And when he said this to me, I was trying to lift my head up. I was trying to lift my head up. And as I was trying to lift my head up, he still had my hair and he was holding it. And I was like, no. And he was like, no, this is no. And I was like, no, I don't want this. I came here for you. I don't want this. This is not what I want. This is not what I want. And
Take a moment. That's fine. Okay, so at this point, other men have entered the room. And who are these other men at this point?
uh, at this point, I would say um, it was Jack, it was Fuller.
Was Nigel and Trevor in the room or no?
Well, I keep going back and forth with the Nigel. I think Nigel was actually Jack, is what they called Jack.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I
You're saying that's the same person.
yeah,
Nigel and Jack are the same person.
yes,
Haitian Jack. Okay,
yeah,
yeah, because when I was going through my notes, that part was kind of confusing because I know Haitian Jack was there.
yeah.
Okay, so that was the person that you knew as Nigel. Okay. Okay, so they come in, Pac is there, and the situation is unfolding. What does Pac do at that point?
At the time, I'm on top of him. I'm straddling him. At the point where I feel uh and and pardon me, because at one point I'm there and at one point I'm really not. You know what I mean? Like, as far as, at one point I'm there omnipresent in my body, and another point I'm kind of looking down at myself because I can't believe this is happening to me. So at one point my physical body is straddling him. He's there. I hear the voices. They come in. I hear my dress is being ripped. I hear this, and but I'm actually physically still on top of him. He's still there in the bed. I'm still straddling him and I'm still there. He's still holding me. He still has his hand wrapped around my braids. So I'm still there. He's still there. And they start to, and the thing I remember is I had I had black stockings, which we would call pantyhose back then. I had them on, and I remember them being ripped off. I remember my dress being ripped off. I remember all this happening, but I'm still on top of Tupac, and he's still there. So I'm still there looking at his face while all this is actually happening.
At what point does Tupac leave?
Um, the point where they're there, they're pulling off my clothes, my pantyhose, they're talking about me. Um, I actually straddled and had sex with Tupac that night while I was on top of him. Then he got up and he left. And uh then there was Jack, and then and then it followed after that.
Okay, so you had sex with Tupac with all the other guys in the room
Yes, I
first?
was on top of him. Yes.
Okay, and the other guys were what, just touching you while you guys were having sex,
Yes,
or
correct. Mhm.
okay, so then Tupac walked out of the room and
Right.
then you had sex with
No, no, no.
Haitian
I
Jack?
didn't I didn't have sex with them.
Okay.
And that particular night I didn't have sex with him. I want to make that very much clear. You know what I mean? I didn't have sex with Tupac that night, and I didn't have sex with them that night. I was
Okay, so
raped that
I guess
night.
I'm sorry. So I guess I'm just confused. So you're straddling Tupac, the other guys come in,
Yes.
At what point does Tupac leave and leave you alone with those guys?
After I was trailing him, they came in, they ripped off my clothes because as when I was on Tupac, I was fully dressed. I had pantyhose, I had a dress on, I had everything. I was fully dressed, okay? When they came into the room, they started ripping my clothes apart. Meanwhile, at the time, I'm fully like I can't move because my hair, everything is, I'm looking at him this whole time while this is going on, okay? So you know what, I'm gonna not gonna say that I had sex with him. I was raped by him that night because it wasn't consensual at that point when everyone was in the room and they were tearing off my clothes and I was straddling him that night, okay? At one point I did not know that he left because after that happened, it was kind of like when Haitian Jack, and everyone was there, I was kind of like I don't know, and I kind of, I don't know, I kind of was at a out of body experience at that point because I couldn't believe this was happening. So I don't even know at one point he left because I didn't even hear him leave. I knew that I was on top of him. I knew that I was straddling him. I knew they came into the room. I knew they tear off my clothes. I knew that he had me, in a position where that I could not move. I knew that I was on top of him. I knew that I was looking him in the eye. I knew all this was going on. But when I finally came to, it was only me and Charles Fuller in the room. Everyone had left. But I knew that Haitian Jack had had sex with me. I knew that there was someone else that I don't even know who he was. That
Was that Trevor, possibly?
it could have been Trevor. It could have
Okay.
been.
Okay. So you did you actually have intercourse with Fuller and Haitian Jack, or was it just fellatio, or what?
No, it was I well, you can't say have sex because this is rape. This was something that was not a consensual thing. So I was raped by Tupac. I was raped by Haitian Jack. I was raped by the tall, dark skinned gentleman. I guess if we would say he was Fuller. I mean, I'm sorry, he was Trevor. And Charles Fuller never raped me because Charles Fuller was like, I'm not going to touch you. Because at that point, he was like, Ayana, I'm not going to touch you. I'm so sorry this happened. So actually, to be on the record, Charles Fuller never raped me that night.
Tupac laid out the series of events himself in an interview, and there are differences, but there's also similarities between what you were saying. Like, he didn't say that none of this happened; it's all made up. So he laid out a situation where he basically said, she starts massaging my front. This lasted for about half an hour. In between, we would stop and kiss each other. I'm thinking she's about to give me another blowjob, but before she came in, some guys came in, and I froze up and she froze up. If she said anything, I would have said, "Hold on, let me finish," but I can't say anything because she's not saying nothing. How do I look saying "hold on"? That would be like I'm making her my girl. So they came in, they start touching her ass. They're going, "Ooh, she got a nice ass." Nigel isn't touching her, but I could hear his voice saying, "Put her panties down, put her pantyhose down." I just got up and walked out of the room. That was Tupac's assessment of the situation. Now there are differences, but there are also similarities. He's basically saying you guys were together, you guys were kissing, making out, and then a bunch of guys came in, and he essentially didn't do anything to stop it. So based on his story, is there anything that you feel is incorrect?
that I feel is correct. Incorrect. I feel there's a lot of things that are incorrect. I feel that I would have never been there if it wasn't for him. You know what I mean? It was I was never, and I want to clear this. I was never in cahoots or involved with Haitian Jack or any other. I feel like there's a whole conspiracy theory that it was this thing was like a whole setup, or I never knew Haitian Jack. I never knew anyone else affiliated with this. When the night that I went to Nels, I met him just like I met everyone else. You know what I mean? I was 18-year old, 19-year old. Well, I think, yeah, it's 18, 19-year old young lady. You know what I mean? I didn't know any of this. And I felt like I was a little starstruck. You know what I mean? And I felt like I was, I had a connection with him no matter what it was, whether it was, a casual thing, which is okay. You know what I mean? And it was there, but I felt like to be lured into the situation and to this, it's changed me.
At the point that this whole situation finished, you said you were just in the room with Fuller.
Hmm.
What happens next when you start to really, I guess, because you said you were somewhat out of it, when you start to kind of
Hmm.
get back into it, what do you do after you realize what just happened?
I was like hysterical. I know Fuller. It was like, calm down, calm down. He's like, Ayana, calm down, just relax, calm down. And I'm like, no. And I'm like, don't touch me. At that point, I'm pretty much in a compromised state where I'm nude, my clothes are ripped off. I'm feeling very much vulnerable. I'm like, and he's like, listen, go to the bathroom, get yourself together. And that room had a bathroom that was off to the side. I went to the bathroom and I kept telling him, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And he's like, you can't leave. You can't leave until you calm down. We'll talk to Pac, we'll relax and we'll mull everything over. And I was just like, I just want to go home. And I remember being in the bathroom and I was like, I just want to be alone. And he would not, Charles Fuller would not leave me alone in the bathroom. And I was just like, I was screaming at him and I was like, just get out, get out, get out. And he would not get out. And he was just like, listen, he was like, you know what happened to Mike Tyson? You know what's going on? Pac doesn't need that. I'm his manager. I need you to sit down. I need you to relax. I need you to be still. Okay? We're going to make this right. And I said, I don't give a fuck about anything. I want to go home and I want you to let me out. I was in there. I can't even, I don't even know the time, but I was in there for a while. And finally, he was like, okay, 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 I'm going to let you go. I walked out of the bathroom. I went to the bedroom. I picked up my dress. I don't even remember. It was so long ago. I don't even remember if I had my shoes or one shoe, whatever. And I left out of the door of, let me think. It was so long ago. No. I picked up my shoes. No, I put on my dress. I picked up a shoe or one shoe, I believe, at that night. And oh, no. And then he said, Fuller came, he says, Pac wants to talk to you. And as I was putting my dress on in the bedroom, that everything happened. And I said, he wants to talk to me. He says, yeah, he wants to talk to you. And I remember going into the suite, the living room that was in between. And he was laying, it was a couch. He was laying across the couch. He was laying there with his head back and his eyes closed. And he looked up at me and I looked at him. And then I said, how could you let this happen to me? And I was screaming, but I didn't say it in that demeanor, of course, at that time. I was screaming. And he looked at me and he looked me dead in the eye. He says, get this bitch out of here. And Fuller took me. We went back to the room where it happened. And I went into the hallway of the Meridian. I walked down the hallway. And then when you come to the elevators, they had like a panel of mirrors. And I was just like thinking to myself, I just want to go home. This is like a horrible night. And as the elevator came down, the elevators opened and there were some gentlemen on the elevators, and they looked at me. At that point, my dress was ripped. I probably was looking crazy, and they looked at me and they were like, "Are you okay, miss?" And I said, "I'm okay." And they said, "Are you sure?" And at that point, I started crying, and they looked at me. They looked at what I was wearing, and they said, "Did you come from?" And I'm sorry, I can't remember. So long ago, I can't remember the room number. And they sat and they took me to another floor on the hotel, I guess, which was like a security floor. I don't know. And I sat down and I spoke with him.
Okay. So you were speaking to security at that point, hotel security?
Yeah, that was security at the time. Yes.
Okay. After you spoke to hotel security, did you go back to Tupac's room?
No,
So that was that.
that was that.
When you came and talked to Tupac, I understand that his publicist, a female publicist, was in the room at that point.
I never saw her.
You never saw a female publicist?
Never saw her.
Okay. Because she ended up testifying in court, but we'll go ahead and get into that.
Hmm.
But so there was no females in the room at all.
No, I
whole time.
never saw her.
As you were leaving, did you say, "This is not the last time you're going to hear from me"?
No,
That was never said.
never said.
So you left the room. You meet with security.
Hmm.
At that point in your mind, are you like, "I'm going to go to the police and press charges"?
No, at that point, I just want to go home. At that point, I just want to go home. I can't believe this happened. I want to go home.
Okay. But then what happens next?
Okay, so after I go into this floor that I never even knew existed, they start asking me questions about the room that I came from and what happened and my clothes, and I tell them. At that point, the New York City, NYPD is called. They come in. I'm sitting there in a hotel because my clothes my dress is shredded. They give me like a Meridian, robe to put on. So I'm sitting there and they says, "Well, Miss Jackson, you're going to have to come down and you're going to have to identify them." And I said, "Okay." So I go down to the lobby. All of this now, I'm still like in a haze. Like I can't even, like, I just want to go home. Like, I don't know what's going on. We go down to the lobby. I see Tupac come off the elevator. I see at the time Nigel, which I think is, Jack, come off the elevator. And they have me behind. They don't see me. I don't see them physically, but they have me in an area where I can see them, but they can't actually see me. And they're like, is this the person? Is it the person that raped me or whatever? I'm like, yes, yes, yes. So they arrest them. At that point, I'm taking from the Parker Meridian to St. Luke's for a rape kit.
Okay. And what does the rape kit end up finding out?
You know what? I don't even know. I went to St. Luke's. I did the rape kit. We went through all that. I had an officer, female officer, 2 male officers, after leaving St. Luke's, transport me to a precinct. I wasn't allowed to go home. I wasn't allowed to contact my family or anything. I spent the night at the precinct that night. I was in the back of a precinct sleeping on a sofa that night, and they kept me there to go to the special victims unit the next morning. I wanted to go home, but I wasn't allowed to shower. I was still in the Meridian robe, sleeping that night on the sofa in the I'm sorry, on the couch in the precinct. And the next morning, I was um I was in Melissa Morge's office. I was transported to our office.
And that's the district attorney.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
At the time this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
it's all a blur. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
But you did an interview later on. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it was Source Magazine,
Mm-hmm.
where you felt that you realized that the district attorney and the NYPD had it out for Tupac and were, I guess, using you to get at him.
No, let's be correct. I don't think. Okay, it's putting me in a very precarious situation. It's putting me in a situation because I am a black woman, and it's putting me in a situation where as I'm older now, I understand the dynamics of things. Okay. I was a victim of rape, no matter who or what it was. Okay, just so happens that he is an icon now, and I take nothing away from that. And I will never bash him because we actually made peace after that. The thing about it is that I felt that perhaps if this may have happened with Tyrone down the block, it may not have been given the same attention as it would have been given because of who or what it was. I don't want to get into I don't want to get into those schematics of whether they were out to get them or not, because I'm not I don't want to say that. I am you know what I mean? I don't want to
Yeah.
make it seem like it lessens what happened to me. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to say I don't know with the same velocity if it would have been chased after if it was someone on a street corner. I don't, you know what I mean? But it doesn't take away from, and I want to be very careful with those words because I don't want to make it seem as if it was a conspiracy and we were all after them. No, you know what I mean? No, rape is rape, and I'm glad that he was prosecuted because it was rape. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't want to make it seem as if you get what I'm saying.
No, I understand, but I guess just the point that I want to make, and I think you did kind of touch on that a little bit in your interview with the Source, is that right before this situation happened, Tupac had shot two cops in Atlanta and ended up getting off for that. And when you talk about the brotherhood, in police departments and so forth, you can't, as someone living in America, you do know that when, police feel a certain type of way when they see that type of thing happen.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, granted he was a celebrity and they wanted to prosecute him, but do you think at all NYPD felt a certain level of, okay, well, you got away with that, but we're going to get you for this, almost like like what happened with O.J. Simpson. He got away with murder, but then we caught him on this lesser charge, so we're going to give him 35 years for this, even though, it may not particularly deserve 35 years. And that's why you said, if this was a regular guy, they may not have gone so heavily on this particular case. So do you think that the shooting may have played a role in it?
You know what? I don't know. I really don't
Okay.
know.
So Pac gets arrested, Haitian Jack gets arrested, Charles Fuller gets arrested, Trevor gets arrested. Everyone gets arrested and charged for sexual assault and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
How long between that night and the actual court date?
Oh my gosh, I can't remember that. I can't remember.
Was it a month, a year? Like, roughly how long?
It may have been. I remember I was moved from my home. I was in a secluded place. So I want to say maybe 8 months to a year. Yeah.
Okay, so you were moved from your home?
Yes. I didn't live in my home. No.
Was that because you were getting threats or?
I was getting threats, but also they felt like it would be better with the press and everything just to kind of isolate me. Yeah.
Okay. So then the court date comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Tupac is charged with sexual abuse,
Mm-hmm.
sodomy, and illegal possession of a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess when they went into the hotel room, they found some guns in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and him and Charles Fuller were were basically co-defendants, right? They were on the same case.
Mm-hmm.
Haitian Jack separated his case, right?
I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, and we could talk about that in a second. After we get through this part. What about the other guy who assaulted you? I guess the Trevor. What happened to him?
They said he was never apprehended.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
they told me, he was never apprehended. So.
Okay, so basically the people that were apprehended was Tupac, Fuller, and Haitian Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the trial starts to begin.
Mm-hmm.
Tupac, I mean, I've heard different stories. I heard one that he was facing 25 years, one that he was facing 7 years. Do you have any idea what he was facing?
You know what? I didn't know what he was facing. I was pretty much with the DA with telling my story. They kept me very much isolated, so that information I wasn't really privy to. I really didn't know.
Okay. So I was told that at one point Tupac was offered probation, but he turned it down.
Oh
Do you know about that?
no, I don't know about that. No.
So the court starts. Um, I guess the defense, because Tupac only had one person take the stand on his behalf, right? And that was his publicist. And the defense was that you were jealous that Tupac had supposedly had another woman waiting, and this was you lashing out of jealousy. How did you? I mean, and that was their defense. How did you feel about that defense?
Well, I never. This is news to me because I never heard their defense. As a victim of rape, I was brought in. I stated my testimony and I was whisked out. So I was never privy to all of this. So actually, what you're telling me is new to me. And as being someone that had just met him, and I wouldn't know that. This is new to me.
Okay, so you didn't actually sit in on the whole trial.
No, of course not. No. I was brought
Aha.
in to make my testimony and I was whisked out. I wasn't there.
Okay, when you came in and did your testimony, did you and Tupac, did you look at each other, and was there any sort of visual communication at all?
Never looked at him.
Okay. So you testified, Pac testified, and then the jury started to deliberate, right?
Hmm.
One day after the deliberation started, the Quad Studio situation happened and Tupac gets shot up, right?
Hmm.
And Tupac actually comes into the courtroom with bandages on his head, and he's got bullet wounds and everything else like that. Were you actually in the courtroom when he came in like that?
Yes, he came in for his sentencing.
Right.
Hmm.
What did you think when you saw Tupac look like that, all shot up?
What did I think?
Yeah.
uh, that's I don't know what to say that I thought.
Okay. So, um, before the sentencing happened, and I'm not exactly sure what the timeline is, so you could probably correct me on this.
Mm-hmm.
Did Tupac do a statement before the sentencing happened, or did he do it afterwards?
No, he didn't do before. He did it after.
By the way, so he was charged with sexual assault,
Mm-hmm.
sodomy, and possession of a firearm. And by sodomy, we don't mean anal sex; we mean fellatio,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when the jury came back,
Mm-hmm.
he was cleared of the sodomy and the firearm,
Mm-hmm.
but he was convicted on 3 counts of sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel when you heard the verdict?
Um, how did I feel when I heard the verdict? I felt. Now you have to remember, I am 19 at the time, so I'm not really knowing I'm not. I wasn't a lawyer. I wasn't. I didn't have knowledge of the law and what statutes carry this or what laws carry that. I just at the point I just felt that I was violated, and I wanted him to be answered for that. Yes.
So did you feel that the guilty verdict, did that satisfy your feeling of him answering for what he did?
I don't think that it could ever satisfy. I don't think whether it's a guilty verdict by a court or anything, I don't think it ever can satisfy something that has been taken away from me that I'm 44 now, that I could never ever recover from. Never. You know what I mean? So there is no justice in that. Not at all.
Okay, so Tupac, he wasn't actually convicted of rape. He was convicted for forcibly touching the buttocks, right? It was sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And then Charles Fuller was, I guess, convicted of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Tupac got 1.5 years to 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Fuller got 4 months in jail and 5 years probation.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel, I mean, because you said that Charles Fuller didn't actually do anything, but he was there. Did you feel that Charles Fuller it was fair, the conviction that he got as well?
You know what? I never knew what Charles Fuller what he was sentenced to because I wasn't privy to that information.
Okay, yeah. So he got 4 months, 4 months in jail and
Okay.
5 years probation.
Okay.
Before the actual sentencing,
Mm-hmm.
Tupac spoke, I guess, directly to you in the courtroom,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what he said?
A little bit of it, not all of it.
Okay, can you talk about what you do remember?
I do remember that he apologized to me. He said he was sorry. I do remember him saying that he was sorry, that he should have. I'm kind of reaching here. I remember him saying that he was sorry, that he should have acted in a different way, or he should have handled it a different way.
Now, from what I read, it said that Tupac was crying when he was speaking to you in the courtroom. Is that
Mhm.
true?
Yeah, he was.
Okay, so he had actual tears coming down his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Now he apologized to you, but he also said, "I'm not apologizing for a crime,"
Mm-hmm.
and I hope in time you'll come forth and tell the truth. I'm
Mm-hmm.
innocent.
Mm-hmm.
How did it feel to get an apology, but not really an apology?
That's kind of a catch-22. The apology was that he knew what he was doing, and he knew that he lured me there. Okay? Now, I not to say so much, but maybe the fear, maybe other people, the influence around him, that he felt that maybe perhaps he could not intervene on that behalf. So I'm gonna leave it as at that.
Okay. So before the final sentencing, Tupac spoke to the judge as well. Were you in the room when that happened?
Yes.
Okay. So what Tupac said was, he said, "You know, Your Honor, throughout this entire court case, you haven't looked me or my attorney in the eye once. It's obvious you're not here in the search for justice, so therefore there's no point in me asking for a lighter sentence. I don't care what you do because you're not respecting us. This is not a court of law. As far as I'm concerned, no justice is being served here, and you still can't look at me in the eye. So I say, do what you want to do. Give me whatever time you want, because I'm not in your hands. I'm in God's hands." When you heard that speech from Tupac, well, what did you feel?
I didn't feel anything.
Okay. So then the judge spoke about the sentencing. He said, "This was an act of brutal violence against a helpless woman. Mr. Shakur had been the instigator of an arrogant abuse of the victim, which culminated an escalating display of arrogance as he pursued his career." What did you think when you heard the judge say that?
I thought that Judge Fitzgerald was right on point.
Okay. So Tupac and Charles Fuller, their trial concludes. They get found guilty. Tupac gets sentenced to 1.5 to 4.5. Charles Fuller gets 4 months. But then Haitian Jack, from what I understand, because I spoke to Jack about this, he was given a separate trial because there was the guns in the room, and he wasn't actually staying in that room. He just came to visit. So they separated his trial to not include the gun part. Are you familiar with any of this, or no?
No, I'm not. I wasn't privy to that. I'm sorry.
Okay. So he had a separate trial, and he had a separate case, but that case never actually went to trial. From what Jack told me is that he ended up pleading out. He took a misdemeanor charge and paid a $1,000 fine. So, from your point of view, Tupac was there. He played a role, according to you, in this whole situation. But then you said that these other guys, you're saying that Haitian Jack was the one who raped you and so forth. Tupac goes to jail. Haitian Jack pays a $1,000 fine and walks away. Why do you think that is?
This is news to me. I don't even know about this. This is the first time hearing about this.
So how do you feel now that you're hearing this?
Rape is rape. Doesn't matter who or where it comes from.
Okay, but why does Tupac get this type of sentence, but then the people who you say actually raped you essentially walked away? Haitian Jack walked away from it. The other guy, I guess, was never to be found. And yet Tupac ends up doing the jail time. Are you okay with how this worked out, with him being the only one that really got sentenced to this?
I really can't speak on that. I really don't know. I'm sorry. I can't speak on that.
So Tupac gets sentenced to 1.5 to 4.5. And then at one point, Suge Knight comes and bails him out after 8 months. Now, I guess what I'm confused about is he got bailed out because he was appealing, or what exactly happened?
Yeah, well, later on, yes, he was appealing the sentence. Yes.
He was appealing the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So Suge Knight ended up paying his bail, and he gets released. How did you feel when you found out that Tupac was released after 8 months?
I didn't feel any kind of way. I had moved on with my life. I was doing other things. I was just trying to rebuild myself. So I was in a whole different space at that time.
Yeah. Tupac gets out, and he blows up bigger than ever. You know, he drops California Love. It becomes the biggest song in the world. He drops his album, All Eyes on Me. It ends up going multi-platinum and so forth. There's a song on the album called All About You. It's all about you. And that song seemed to have been directed towards you. Would you say that's correct?
You know what? This is news to me. I've literally have not listened to any of Tupac's music, and and I have to say the people that around me know me until recently. This is totally organically new to me. I don't know. I haven't heard the song. I don't know anything about this.
I understand. So you completely separated yourself from any Tupac
Yes.
music, any Tupac anything, which I guess, I mean, that makes sense. So Tupac does a set of interviews when he's out, and one of the interviews that he does, he said that there's women and then there's bitches, and you treat these two types of people in completely different ways. Do you agree with that? And when someone like a Tupac says that, do you feel that he looked at you as a woman or like a bitch or so forth? And how do you think that really affected the way you guys interacted?
I don't know what his thought process was because I wasn't in his head. You know what I mean? So I can't really say what his thought process was. You know what I mean? I'm a black woman, so I don't know. I can't say what another human being is thinking inside their mind. I really
Right.
can't.
Well, before the incident happened, do you think that he was treating you respectfully, or do you think that he was treating you like a groupie?
I met him. I thought we had a friend, I thought we were developing a friendship. Um, and until the incident happened, it, let's just say this. I met him. I admired him. I was a fan of him. Um, I was always treated in a certain manner, which I should have been treated in. When the incident happened, it was devastating. So I don't know. I don't know how to weigh that only with my experience. I don't know. I don't know how to weigh that.
Okay. So after Tupac gets out of jail,
Mm-hmm.
he's out on bail,
Mm-hmm.
the two of you communicate?
No.
Well, you said at one point you guys worked it out.
At one point, he apologized to me. Um, he apologized. He apologized. He was a little fearful of people that he was around, which I had no knowledge of information of. And within my therapy and everything, because I had to have therapy, I let it go. I forgave him and I let it go.
Well, when you say he apologized, I mean, he apologized in the courtroom. Are you talking about a different instance that he apologized?
Yes, he apologized in a different instant. Yes.
Oh, okay. So how did he apologize? Like, how did he apologize to you exactly?
A phone call.
Oh, so he called you.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get a phone call from Tupac.
Mm-hmm.
What goes through your head when you hear his voice on the other end?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
And what exactly did he say?
I'm sorry.
And how did you respond?
I hung up the phone.
So that was that. I'm sorry, click.
Yeah.
Did you feel at all better about it? Did you feel more angry about it? What set of emotions went through you after getting that phone call?
At that point, nothing. After going through what I had to go through as far as therapy and learning to forgive, and I understood it. And after going into dynamics of everything else that was going on in that situation, then I felt a little bit better. But at that time, no.
Yeah. At one point, it came out afterwards that Tupac felt that you were connected to the people that tried to kill him at Quad Studios. You've heard this rumor, as well. What do you say to that rumor?
That's hogwash. I was never, ever, ever connected to anything. Never knew anyone outside of meeting them through him. Never. Never at all.
So then the Las Vegas situation happens and Tupac gets killed at 25 years old. Now, at the time that he gets killed, he's still on bail.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still in the process of trying to appeal this case that you guys had.
Mm-hmm.
When you heard that he was killed, what went through your head initially?
Blank, nothing. Nothing.
You didn't feel anger, you didn't feel a sense of revenge, you didn't
No.
feel
None of that. None of that.
none of
None
that.
of that. None of that at all.
When you realize that at this point he's gone, and there's not going to be any more interviews about this, there's not going to be another trial. Essentially, this is it. Was there any sense of closure to you?
I already had closure. I was okay with it. I was moving on in my life. I was in a different space. That was done for me.
Yeah. When you look at it now, you fast forward to 20-something years later, how do you feel about it? Do you feel that you could have done something differently? Do you feel that, the way things played out ultimately was justified? Or is there still a sense of, non-closure to it?
No, I feel like there's a sense of closure. To say if I would have done things differently, I was an 18-year-old young girl, you know what I mean? And, I met someone and whom I was a fan of, who I admired, who inadvertently I trusted, you know what I mean? And with that being said, it has led me to make different decisions within my life, to not be so trusting. But I can't do it any differently because that's how it was meant to play out. I really can't.
Yeah.
Now, the Tupac movie came out.
Hmm.
You went to go see the movie?
I saw a little bit of the movie. I wind up walking out on it, but I saw a little bit of it.
Did you see yourself portrayed in the movie?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you see the whole part through the trial and everything?
No, just saw the actual incident of what they portrayed.
Okay. When you saw it played out on the screen, what did you think?
Yeah, absolutely ludicrous. So not me. Anyone that knows me is not my mannerism, my demeanor. Nothing about it is me at all. At all.
So you were upset when you saw yourself?
Of course.
Well, saw the character that was supposed to be you on the screen.
Yeah, Yeah, it's so not me. Absolutely unequivocally not me at all. At all.
So you just walked out of the theater.
I walked out. Yeah, I absolutely. I left. I watched it. I got up. I went to the bathroom. I came back. I was like, I can't watch this shit. I gotta go. It's such a falsehood.
Yeah. Well,
So now we're in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
why you've done interviews, like I said, you've done some written interviews before. Why did you wait until this point to actually go on camera and tell your side of the story?
I kind of felt like I was backed against the wall. I kind of feel as if, I was, I was raped, and I feel like I'm still my character. Everything is, it's still being brought up again, and it's so not true. And I feel like the story needs to be told that that's not the truth. And if in the search of being authentic and being truthful, if they wanted to know the truth, they would really dig in and speak to the people that were affected by this, or me, and was never consulted on this, was never asked about this. So to put my name, my likeness, or whatever on a major film and portrayed in such a way, which is, it's it's like defamation to my character. That's not me. That's not what happened. That's not how it happened. It's not the people that were involved that happened, and it's false.
If Tupac walked into the room right now and you could tell him one last thing, what would it be?
Maybe he would tell me one last thing.
Well, but he did. He apologized. That was the last thing that he told you, and you hung up. And I can imagine at the time, you're not prepared to deal with that type of phone call. But now you fast forward 20 years. If you had a chance to respond to Tupac, what would it be?
Uh, sheesh. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know.
I understand. It's a hard situation. What do you think? Because we live in a time right now where celebrity is far beyond what it used to be. What I mean? Like Tupac was just part of a handful of celebrities back then. These days with social media, everybody's a celebrity. The concept of celebrity has changed. You see the situation with Bill Cosby and how it's playing out. If you were to give advice to 18 and 19-year-old girls who are starstruck, who get to meet a celebrity and the celebrity is interested in them, what advice would you give these girls?
Don't be so trusting. Everything that glitters is not gold.
Okay. I think we're going to leave it at that.